Hey there, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back. I'm your host, PattSun, and today we're going to be taking a look at r/relationships, where even I don't want to touch this story with a 10-foot pole. But here I am. God, I hope I don't get demonetized for this. Anyways, let's begin. How can I tell the wife of the man who was with me for years that I was his mistress since I was a teenager? Wait, what was that?
He, 38 male, and I, 23 female, started a relationship 7 years ago. He was my high school teacher, and I guess he knew how to take advantage of my worst moment. I mean, I was not in a good place mentally or emotionally, and when he paid attention to me, it felt like I was finally really important to someone, and I ignored all the red flags that were in front of me. After a few months, we started seeing each other, and 3 weeks later, he confessed to me that he was married and that the apartment we used to go to always belonged to his brother. He confessed it to me because we couldn't use it anymore. And what did I do? I agreed to go to his house when his wife wasn't home or go to hotels. This was after I turned 18 and things like that, and we did that for years, but over time I agreed to do those things because he scared me. He used to be extremely jealous, controlling, and even violent. I wanted to break up with him, but I couldn't because I was scared and embarrassed too. In 7 years, no one in my family knew about our relationship. I come from a really conservative family, and they wouldn't like to know that I was someone's mistress. So, I kept it a secret for years, but a few months ago I had enough. He hit me in the face with his phone, and he left a horrible bruise on my forehead, and when I started crying, instead of apologizing, he choked me, and I felt like I was going to die, so I broke up with him. Blocked him from everywhere, and told him I didn't want to hear from him anymore. He didn't accept that and spent weeks trying to contact me, but I didn't give in, and now he finally left me alone, but I've been thinking about him and his wife, and I'm worried about her. I mean, I don't know if he treats her like he treated me, and if he doesn't, I want her to know that he's a cheater, and I want to tell her everything he did to me, but I don't know how. How can I tell her that for years I was her husband's mistress?
OP, before you tell his wife, tell the police. He could do this to more children and probably already has. Keep all of the evidence you have and report. Please, on behalf of all the others that could be hurt. You were not his mistress. You were a kid, and he groomed you and sexually abused you using his position of power along with threats and, actual physical harm. Please report him to the police and the school board. I really encourage you to listen to the podcast Betrayal. It is a similar situation, and you may find some courage from it, as what you may need to do may be very difficult, but it is absolutely necessary to protect more kids from his abuse. And I will put a link on that in the description box down below, so please check it out. OP, take care of yourself. You have done nothing wrong, and I know it's not your intent, but stop using romanticized language to describe your abusive situation. Confront it for what it truly is. A vulnerable, innocent kid that was groomed by a pedophile. Take the necessary steps to protect yourself before even thinking about getting in touch with his wife. As I mentioned before, file a complaint with your high school, district office, school board, and most importantly, the police. File a police report and obtain a restraining order. It seems to me that his wife will become aware that something is amiss when the police turn up at their house and court documents begin to come in the mail. It's very terrifying to think about his wife and what he may be doing to her. But really, protect yourself before you do anything else. From the sound of it, there's no telling what this guy might do to you if you make contact with his wife without some sort of protections in place. But good on you for getting out, OP. And I'm sorry. I'm truly sorry for the years of abuse and manipulation. You truly deserve better. Good luck, OP. And now, for today's second story. My ex-husband backed out on his agreement. Ended up costing him so much more in the long run. Posted by Reddit user Chick with an Attitude.
My ex-husband and I had a great divorce. Even though he cheated on me after 12 years and 2 kids under 4, I really wanted to do things differently than my parents did during their divorce. I never said anything negative about him and tried very hard to defend him when the kids got upset with him. I extended invitations to the woman he left me for so she would not feel uncomfortable with me, and we became friends. She was basically their stepmom, so why not include her on everything? On holidays, we all had one big dinner, he and her, and me and my boyfriend. This made everyone comfortable, and the kids never had to choose one side or the other, as we were all on the same page. It was such a great relationship that when I had back surgery, I recovered at his house, and she cooked for me. He and I were coaches for the kids' basketball and baseball teams, and I helped at their wedding 13 years later. This was not easy for me, as he moved to another state to raise her children, leaving me to raise ours on my own. She quit her job when they got together, and I had to return to work to support my kids. But I needed to keep the resentment and bitterness away from my kids. All of this sets the tone for the divorce, but when he initially left, I spoke to a lawyer and got a separation agreement that was really great for me. He asked that I not take half of his retirement, but instead he would pay X in child support and additional Y in alimony because he was making a lot of money and I was a stay-at-home mom with a country club membership. Yuck. I hated saying that, but it was only to set the scene. Normally alimony ends after 5 years, but because I didn't get half of the 401k, the only condition on ending it was it would end on my remarriage or my death. He agreed with all of it. The thing is, when he left me to move down to where she lived, he left his cushy job and took this promising, but not delivering, position that really screwed him financially. But he never went back to the lawyer to get the child support or alimony reduced. Instead, he borrowed from his mother. When I discovered he was mooching off of her, I suggested to her that she stop paying for him when he finally got back on his feet. She never would do that and continued paying for his life and her to be a stay-at-home mom. Even co-signing for a second home for him. When he finally moved back to raise his kids, hers had graduated and lived in his old house, ours were in high school. He did come to me and ask if I would accept regular child support and half of the alimony, then later when he was really earning money, he would pick back up on the past due amount. Not wanting to make waves in an otherwise great divorce, I said yes and kept track each month of what was owed in a shared spreadsheet with him so he could see how far in debt he was getting each month. He ended up owing me $1,000 per month for 10 years, but he said when the kids aged out of child support, he would continue to pay the same amount to make up for the alimony, which totaled $120,000. When my daughter aged out, he continued to pay the same amount, putting a small dent in what he owed for 3 years. Then, as soon as my son aged out, 2 weeks after he joined the Marines, he called me and told me there was no way he was going to continue paying me for the next X years, and I could take him to court if I wanted, but there is no fucking way he would pay me another cent. This completely blew my mind as we had such a fantastic relationship, and it came out of nowhere. I was completely freaked out, but I took his advice. I contacted an attorney, I sent all his calls to voicemail, per my attorney's advice, and I took him to court. The best thing was, prior to the hearing, my attorney put a lien on both homes he had, so he could not change ownership to his mom or wife prior to the court hearing. I still have the phone call recording when he realized this and the horrible names he called me for doing that. Since I had kept such immaculate records from that day he changed payments and he was aware of his debt rising each month, it was a slam dunk for my attorney. Instead of making small payments for a few years, he had 30 days to pay me $120,000 in full. Unfortunately, the kids now have to choose which parent they visit on holidays, but that was not my fault. I was willing to continue as is and not put any strain on the family relationship. And for those who are wondering, yes, he did cheat on her twice before they got married, but she had quit her job when they got together because she found a sugar daddy and had nothing to fall back on and nowhere to go, so she stayed with him. Since we were friends, she shared this info with me as I would understand what she was going through. TLDR. My ex-husband refused to make payments on back-owed alimony and told me if I wanted to get any further money, I should take him to court. That's exactly what I did. Instead of making small payments for the next few years to get caught up, he was ordered to pay the entire $120,000 in 30 days. Edit. I got my money on day 29. No other payments will be made. Edit 2. I think the reason he went crazy on me was his mother refused to pay any more when my son aged out, but I explained that he owed a shit ton in back pay. That's when he said, "If you think I'm making payments to you forever, you're fucking nuts." She had been paying his child support for 10 years because he never went back to a great paying job, even though he could have. Yes, I went to work after separation and have a great career. But my income was still a quarter of his when we were together because we moved every 3 years for his career. He wanted me to stay at home when the kids were born.
You know, gentlemen, I've never really understood people who think they can get out of court-mandated agreements. Like, really, what goes exactly through their heads? Yeah, a judge said that this had to happen, and I agreed. But now, I changed my mind, and I won't do it anymore. What could possibly go wrong? I mean, seriously, it's shocking, really. Is this some sort of rich people joke that I am too poor to understand? But for some reason, some people make it into adulthood without ever hearing someone say the word no to them. I mean, look at his later behavior. It signaled his plan. It was a bully tactic. When OP got the lawyer, he kept up the pressure and the angry phone calls, hoping she would give up. He even had an amateur plan to hide his houses, and when that went up into flames, he was in a panic. But I can't really put all of the blame on the guy. That's how he was raised, and probably how it always has been even after he became an adult. I mean, that man-child was still mooching off of his mother, and she refused to tell him no. Yeah, that's not how you're supposed to raise kids to be a responsible adult. Viewer support is the best way for me to remain independent and continue bringing you these daily videos, which will always be here on my YouTube channel for you to watch absolutely free. So consider clicking that super thanks just below the video title, or you can use my PayPal in the description box down below. Thanks for listening, everyone. If you even somewhat enjoyed today's story, make sure to give this video a thumbs up, and if you really like it, make sure to subscribe to PattSun to never miss a future upload. Stay strong.